Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our April 2nd, 2019 Board of Supervisors meeting. If we could start us off with the invocation, Mr. Thomas.
I'd be happy to. If you please stand and join me in prayer. Dear Father God, we come before you this day first to say thank you. We want to thank you for your many blessings. We want to thank you for this opportunity to serve the county. We want to thank you for the young folks that are here. We want to now ask that your blessings give us the wisdom and guidance to do what's right for the county to make good decisions. These and all things we ask in the name of our risen Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen. Mr. Forehand, I've asked the Beta Club if they would come forward and do the pledge, if that's okay.
That would be great. You can come on forward.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll start off with opening board comments. Mr. Thomas, would you like to start us off?
I do have a couple, Mr. Chairman. The Beta Club has come before us, and as you see, they did a great job with the Pledge of Allegiance. They weren't on the agenda, and I was hoping we could add them to presentations and reports, preferably first if that's possible, because I think some of them will have to get up and go to school tomorrow. Oh, spring break. You can stay up as long as you want. Well, still a little earlier, if that's okay with you. And the other thing, I forwarded to the board, I got a citizen concern about the high school softball fields. And the citizen said that they were forced to do fundraisers to improve the field. And I'd just like us to be able to discuss that and debate that as we go through the budget process, maybe with the school board or among the Board of Supervisors ourselves. Okay? Thank you, sir, and that's all I have today.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Black?
Yeah, I have a couple. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Chairman as well as the Parks and Rec Department, Mr. Schiebel, the trail, the work day for the trail that we had for the Woodland Trail behind the middle school, and it was excellent. One of the things that was really neat is we all had different work groups that were out there, and you got to see people from my district, people from Mr. Seeley's district, different people from all around. We had the football coach, would like to say, from Carolina High School, kudos to him for sending out the students to help out. That was a huge help. They were excellent young men, so and that labor really, really helped, so we really appreciate that. That was a great day. I think we had 70-something volunteers, so that was really cool, really neat to see different people from the county coming together. I will be having constituent meetings coming up next week, which is Tuesday, April 9th, and then Thursday, April 11th, starting at 7. The April 9th meeting will be at Rehoboth United Methodist Church, and the April 11th meeting will be inside the Heritage Clubhouse in Lake Landor. Mr. Copeland and I always kind of do a dual meeting, school board, board of supervisors, so that'll be happening next week. Also, Mr. Schiebel, I don't know if Mr. Schiebel is here. I know that we had talked at the last meeting about, or 2 meetings ago, we had put some money towards picking up trash around the county. If you could for us forward like a list of what they're hitting, what are their priorities and so forth, where they're going, so that way we can kind of tell our residents some of the areas that are pretty bad around the county, and so we can say where we've cleaned up, and maybe if you could get us some suggestions from, because I think all of us probably have different roads in our different districts that are in pretty bad shape, so thank you. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Ms. Long?
Thank you. Jumping on with what you said about the park day, it was wonderful to see everybody out there working together. I think it's going to be a wonderful project, and much thanks to not just the citizens, but I also appreciate the turnout for the staff giving up their weekend and coming out and helping. Public Works was out there in mass, as well as other members of the staff of your county, and that's always wonderful to see. I want to thank the Farm Bureau for inviting us all to dinner and to an interesting speaker, and enjoyed that evening. Even though we had a monsoon rain right before it started, and most of the roads in the town of Port Royal were flooded, but luckily everybody got there, I hope. We have an upcoming rural roads period coming up with VDOT, and one thing I would like to put in for that is us to consider asking VDOT to put it on their list to do a safety study on Route 2, which is becoming to be a problem zone. I've spoken to Sheriff Lippa about that. He agrees that that road, with the stress we're getting from neighboring counties, is becoming a jump-off spot for 95 and Route 1. So I'd like to submit that. And the last thing is we lost a employee who had just retired. If anyone is here from the District of Port Royal, the Port Royal convenience site, Mr. Dick Washington worked there from the day it opened until just the beginning of this year. And he passed away this past Friday, and I believe his funeral will be here on Saturday at noon. But he was a wonderful friend to many of us, and loyal employee, but mostly our friend, and we will miss him greatly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Mr. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple. I had a constituent meeting 2 weeks ago. Was well attended. Between 50 and maybe 75 people attended. We had to move it from the library to the church. But there were a number of concerns that came out of that meeting. One was they were concerned about the lack of upgrades and support for the Low Massey Park. So I think we need to look at how we can improve the Low Massey Park for the citizens of Reedy Church. Additionally, we talked about when we put the YMCA in Ladysmith, one of the things that the YMCA talked about was having a bus come through certain parts of the county, allowing some of our senior citizens to participate in some of the activities at the Y. I'd like to have the YMCA come back before us and just have a presentation. I called about the Silver Slipper program that a lot of YMCAs have, and this YMCA does not have a Silver Slipper program that supports our senior citizens. Now, I think if they're going to be part of this community, and all communities are paying for the Y, then they should service all of the communities. And that was one of the things that we talked about when we originally put that YMCA there in Ladysmith. So I'd like to have them come before us, and let's have a conversation about their commitment to supporting the citizens of all the districts within the county. Also, the Frog Level Fire Department volunteer fire department will be celebrating their 50th anniversary in October. So I'm asking the board to support me in putting together a resolution for the Frog Level Fire Department. And finally, I'd like to thank Mr. Mahone and Sheriff Lippa, Mr. Parton, Mr. Bassoon, and I believe Mr. Whiteman for attending the meeting and talking to the citizens about what we could do to continue to make Reedy Church a better district. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Mr. Seeley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to say Bowling Green did their award ceremony 2 weeks ago. It was a really nice ceremony at the firehouse, recognizing all the folks that went above and beyond, I guess, for the year. And I will tell you that we had one member there that did 2,700 hours of volunteer service. I asked him if he had a place to live. He'd spend so much time there. They did an outstanding job of recognizing everybody. Secondly, I'd like to thank Mr. Schiebel and Public Works for the guys that came out and worked all day Saturday. But for those that don't know, Mr. Schiebel spent the entire day in the mini excavator with myself and a very new member to my district cutting the trees that had come down during the tropical storm last year off so that they could actually bury the stumps. It was incredible how much got done, but Mr. Shebel with the mini excavator rolling, and his skill on that is really amazing. I'm surprised they don't have you out there digging with the rest of the guys when they have water line breaks and sewer line repairs. But I want to thank him for spending all day in a vehicle actually helping to move everything along, because it was a monumental project. And everybody that showed up, it was really a lot of community spirit out there working to get that trail in shape and ready to be walked on. The other thing is I'd like to follow up with the sheriff's office and figure out where we are with the cameras for trash. We got a letter from Lieutenant Colonel Bob Farrar, whose house Chase's run is on the Fredericksburg Garden Tour. And the Garden Week is the largest tourism event in the state of Virginia. And Caroline has 2 locations this year on that tour. It only happens every 5 or 6 or 7 years. And the trash problem he's got in front of his place, and it's not like they're trees. He said they throw bottles at the horses. They throw trash everywhere. We have got to figure out a way to figure out who these folks are. And the camera idea came up a couple board meetings ago. I'd like to know where we are on that, because we need to get them set up, and we need to start figuring out who the folks are that are just throwing trash everywhere. And those are my comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. I, too, would like to thank the Farm Bureau, Caroline County Farm Bureau, for the invitation. We did have a presentation on a new product that's been approved to be grown in the state, which is hemp, industrial hemp. Also participated in the Trail Day. Again, the turnout was very, very, very good, better than anticipated. The county staff really worked their rear ends off. We had fire and EMS there. We had folks who brought in tractors. Mr. Seeley, Mr. Black, Ms. Long were hauling and cutting limbs, and it was a great effort. Some work has continued since the work day, and happy to report we're about 85-90% ready with the surface. We still have a lot of trees to cut, and we're going to have a follow-up work day on the 13th of April. We're trying to get in before it gets too green and the stuff gets harder to see. Also on the, April 13th is the Hero Awards, and look forward to attending that event. And that'll be it for now. Okay. Thank you. Ms. Long?
I just wanted to point out that the 13th is also the opening day for Little League.
Yes, that's right.
So,
It'll be a very busy day in my household. All 3. Trail, Little League, and Hero Awards that night. So. All right, any amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to propose an amendment to the agenda. If we may add the Beta Club to presentations, either before or after the Little League, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Let's slide them in before real quick. Is that junior beta? Correct. Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, we have one we'd like to add on the appropriation of polar bear plunge funds for FY19 to consent.
Any issue with this being put on consent? Okay. Make it C on the consent agenda. Any others?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended with the Beta Club and...
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, our agenda is set for the evening. We will go right into the Junior Beta Club presentation.
Good evening, Chair Forehand, Vice Chair Seeley, and the members of the board. We appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak with you guys again this evening. As you know, the junior betas are in all of our schools in the county now, and our betas work hard. I know at Bowling Green, they have a Heart campaign this year where we have taken on our homeless in Caroline County. As you know, we have a lot of people living in hotels and living in campgrounds and that kind of thing. So we provided food and other services and other things that they need. I know that Madison Elementary has taken on the Bowling Green nursing home, and so they've supported them. And now it's time for us to look for support from you guys and the other members of the county. I'm going to let one of my betas speak to you for just a moment.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing us to speak with you tonight. My name is James Scott, and I was fortunate enough to go to the State Beta Convention. I participated in several events, and my team did well enough to be eligible for the National Convention in Oklahoma. As you can imagine, it will take a lot of work and money to get my team and I there. We are ready to do the fundraising work. I know that you have been able to help the county betas in the past, and I hope that that will not change this year. Would you consider making a donation to help the Caroline County Betas clubs as we attempt to bring back more national awards for our county? Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Leanna Hayes, and I've been a member of Junior Beta for 3 years. To me, Beta is more than just a club. It's like a family. Beta has given me many opportunities, and I am glad to be a part of it. Beta has taught me about how to build leadership skills and developing my character, and I'm still learning as the days go by. When I think of Beta, I also think of the bright future and what comes with it. I'm greatly honored to be able to go to this year's national convention. I believe that it will be a very rewarding opportunity for me and my peers. I am very excited to be chosen to attend, and I hope to learn more about myself and others while I'm there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to give you some figures, I know that data is important. We have, just for junior betas, we have 26 members that have committed to go. We have almost double that were eligible to go, but because of finances this year, they were unable to make the commitment. So 26 beta members that can go. I'm not sure what the budget is for each beta member at the middle school. Their estimate is $871. At the elementary level, we've taken some of the frills out and put those on the families, and we're at $750 per person. So, as you know, that's quite a bit. It's been a rough year for a lot of our families with the new tax laws and whatnot. So, they've said that as much help as we can get would really be appreciated. So, we hope that you guys will be able to help support us. Thank you. Any questions?
Are the other young ladies going to speak?
No, they're just here for moral support. Would you like to speak to them?
Well, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I think I did it last year. How old are these young ladies? You're never supposed to ask a woman her age. So.
They're 12. Those are middle school betas, and they're 12 and 13.
They're 12,
Junior
and I do it
betas.
every year, yeah.
Junior beta in Caroline goes
Okay.
from 5th grade until 8th grade, and then senior betas are from 9th until 12th.
Okay. And the young man was 12 also?
No, he is. Are you 10 or 11, James? 10.
Oh, my gosh. They're a great example of what our schools can do.
Yes.
So I appreciate that. We did something last year for the Beta Club. I was trying to recall. It was like $10,000 or $15,000, something like that. I think it was 10. When is the deadline?
We actually, the convention, we're leaving on June 14th.
Oh. So
We meet in 2 weeks, we can get you the number what we gave them last year.
Okay. Because I think we did something like we put up 10,000
We
and we
put it down
challenged
to
the
the
school board to do
it.
10,000.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it, but
I'm pretty sure that's what it was last year, yes.
Okay. Well, we can try to do that again, Mr. Chairman, if that's all right with the board.
I'm open to that, yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no objection, we'll make the motion that we donate the same amount of money to the Beta Club that we did last year, and we believe it's $10,000. If the county administrator finds out that it's more, then we will make the appropriate donation, but we'll make the motion tonight to at least donate $10,000 to Junior Beta Club.
That's for all the Beta clubs, Mr. Thomas?
That's our donation to the Beta Club, and they'll work the funding out from there.
Okay.
Yes, for all of them. And then we're also sending the same challenge out to the school board, so if they can find some money in their budget to help them too.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second to provide $10,000 in funding to the Beta Club for the National Convention. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Keep up the good work.
All right. Next, we have Mr. Fletcher, Caroline Little League.
Good evening, and thank you again for having me come back, or letting me come back and speak with you guys about Caroline Little League. Before I start, I will
Mr. Fletcher.
vouch for Beta.
Mr.
Both
Fletcher.
of my sons have gone through Beta. It's a great program.
You want $20,000? That's your bottom line? You want $20,000 for this project?
Yes, sir.
If we said you gave a great presentation and gave you that $20,000 now, would you be upset?
Would I be upset?
Mhm.
No, I would not be upset.
Well, Mr. Thomas, don't make promises for the board right yet. Please.
You want to? I'd make a motion that we approve the $20,000 if that would help Mr. Fletcher and the rest of the board.
Understood. We're gonna look at a presentation
Okay,
first.
that's fine.
All right. I'm sorry. This better? All right. Better, all right. Let me get started with the 2018 year in review. We had 352 baseball and softball players. We completed several projects at the park, including the completion of the concession stand, which included an umpire's dressing room, league offices, and a boardroom, and also batting cages on Field 1 and Field 2. We hosted one tournament last year within our district. That was the 9 to 10-year-old boys. 12 teams showed up, 2 from Spotsy, and it ran over 2 weeks because of rain. And our girls, juniors, and senior softball team qualified for the state championship, which was held in King William. I believe they finished in 3rd. Go back one. That was opening day. A couple of you looked pretty familiar from the backside, at least. I couldn't get any better pictures because my kids were taking pictures. You can move to the next one. That was opening day last year. This next slide is 2 of our all-star teams. On the left are machine pitch ladies. They actually competed down in Mechanicsville. And on the right is my all-star team from last year, boys majors, District 15. Finished 2nd place to Spotsy. Get a next slide, please. 2019 preview. We've got 275 kids. We're actually still working with some of the high school kids that still want to play. We're waiting for them to sign up. But projects underway. We do have kids in every district in the county participating. Field 5, which has traditionally been our T-ball field. It is getting dugouts installed this week. We're working on the fencing as well. All the labor for both of those projects is being donated by local contractors. Lights on Field 3, lights are purchased, and this afternoon the holes started to be drilled to put the poles up in time for opening day. Anyone that's been to the park and been around the bathrooms have seen children playing wall ball. which is not the best idea because there are people entering and exiting the bathrooms. We've actually built them a wall between fields 2 and fields 4 so they can play that out in the field within sight of their parents. We installed the new wireless public address system. It's up and functioning. We'll be able to contact anyone across the park. Continued modernization of the concession stand, including new food warmers, new signage at the entry of the ballpark, make it a little bit clearer to people coming up Page Road where the ballpark is, and new lit score fields for field 3 and 4 should be up in time for opening day on the 13th. Opening day's the 13th at 10 o'clock. It's the largest gathering of youth in Caroline County every year. There'll be ball games starting around 11 that'll go through, last game starts at 5 o'clock. You are all welcome to attend. There'll be vendors, and we got a lot of different things this year than we've had in the past. We're hosting 2 tournaments. District 15 majors, 11 to 12-year-old boys, 12-team tournament, supposed to start around June 23rd. And then the big tournament for us this year in our district is the state junior softball tournament. We're expecting to have at least 10 teams there. It starts the weekend of July 5th. All of those teams that make the tournament will be housed somewhere. We're hoping to house them in Caroline County and work with the county to find hotels and get hotels reserved for those children and their parents and their families, as well as activities for the teams to participate in, because it's a big deal tournament for these young ladies. They're going to be playing the state tournament, and they're at the age where they only get to play 1 or 2 more years. So we still need some help. With our light project on Field 3, we thought we had what we needed. If we purchased the lights, we'd be able to install them. Once we worked with our volunteer partners, subcontractors, and the manufacturer, we uncovered new standards for the lights not required during the light installation on Field 4. This required us to hire a contractor to install the lights and poles. We've received estimates for the entire project of $20,000, including all labor and wiring. Our ask is that we consider you support us in the continued modernization of the park. Those of you that show up to opening day will see a different park than you saw last year. There have been considerable improvements made to the park, and we're continuing to work towards those to make it a much better option for kids in the county. And I think I told you all before that any child that wants to play is allowed to play. They do not have to pay. That's one of the guidelines of Little League, and we've lived up to it every year that I've been on the board. So thank you for letting me come. Do you have any questions for me?
Are you ready now, Mr.
Mr. Black, any questions?
No, I don't have a question. I don't know, Mr. Shebel, Mr. Shebel, can we, for opening day, I had given you a call about a month ago, 2 months ago. Can we work on Page Road so that Page Road looks nice and presentable? Because Page Road can be a place where a lot of trash collects. So as people are on their way to the Little League Park, they can see a nice, presentable road. It is April 13th, so in a couple weeks.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chair.
My apologies, I was asking Mr. Kelly a question.
I just had a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
The $10,000 that we gave last year, that was spent to purchase the lights that have already been installed, or these lights that you
The
need
lights have been
additional?
purchased. They have not been installed.
Okay, that's what the additional 20 is?
Correct. Yeah, we were working under the assumption given by our members of the board that our subcontractors that we could install the poles and lights ourselves. We worked with REC. They had a bit, but the bit couldn't go deep enough to make the poles safe according to Musco Lighting's requirements.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Fletcher?
Yes, sir.
How close to where are you with your fundraising for the $20,000?
This year we're doing our normal calendar sales, which raises about $15,000 for the Little League. We sell 1,000 calendars. We pay out about 5,000. We were earmarking that money to go towards this.
Okay. So where are you right now?
We are at 0 on it because we've not sold the calendars yet.
Okay.
We were going to go into our savings to pay for the lights to get them up in time for the tournaments.
Mr. Thomas, I see your light on.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I was noticing it, and you may not know, but I was a 6-year participant of Little League, not necessarily
I've
here
seen
at Caroline.
pictures. I've seen pictures.
Yeah, not those. But the Little League Park here has a special meaning, which I, always support, and why I tried to push Mr. Fletcher's proposal. It goes back to my neighbor, Mr. Tom Ball, who actually donated the property that the Little League fields are on. So I always like to see that, and I love baseball. But I wanted to make a motion, especially since the county administrator has that in the budget for next year. I assume we could appropriate the money now, earlier than next year, if that's the board's desire. Yeah, we're going to take it out of the fund balance, and then we'll put what you have in the budget back in the fund balance, or you just strike it out?
Either way, it'll end up there. But I would, if you're gonna appropriate it now, it's gonna come out of FY19. And so I would just remove the expenditure from 20.
Is that what the board wants to do, or the board wants to let them do some more fundraising?
Well, the dilemma is, one, we don't go to the new budget till 1 July. They
No,
wanna-
we're going to give them that money now. The money will come out of the fund balance.
Correct. I mean, that's the only way, either way, it's going to come out of the fund balance.
Right, and then Mr. Cully will remove that from next year's budget as we go through, but the point is, all right, I'm going to make a motion that we appropriate the $20,000 for the Little League right now.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I think we gave 10,000 last year, and I think 10,000 would be appropriate. I'm going to support the Little League as well, but certainly I think, and they're going to do some fundraising themselves. So I think, just as we did with Beta, I think Beta raised money last year, and I think it's only fair that we meet them in the middle rather than for us to go the full 100% of the way. So that's my comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
You want me to tell you how much we fundraised to pay for the lights?
Yes.
$48,000. That we've saved for the last 6 years to update the lights on Field 3 as well as the work at the concession stand. So we've definitely, and I know Chairman Forehand knows that we do push our parents to do fundraising as well as we do have the lowest sign-up fees, registration fees within our district. A lot of our parents can pay anywhere between $55 and $75. Our neighboring counties charge in excess of $150 for Children's Play Little League. So we could have gone their route and charged them full freight, where other little leagues that don't even have to manage their own fields parents are paying $150 a child. The most any parent will pay in Caroline is $75. If they sign up early, it's $55. We gave them a month to sign their children up for Little League during the month of December. Each child was $55, and if you signed up a second child, for each additional child, it was another $10 off. So we had parents with 4 and 5 kids signing up before Christmas.
And that includes the uniforms and everything?
Yes, sir. We use a local vendor in the county, Mr. Williams. I forget the name of his company because it's the second year we've used him. So all that money stays in Caroline.
Back in the 20s when I played Little League, we just got a T-shirt and a hat.
Mr. Chairman.
I'll second Mr. Thomas's motion.
Mr. Black.
Oh, I didn't hear a second.
Are we still in discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman. My concern is we have a lot of good causes in Caroline. We just gave the Beta Club 10,000. That's an educational group and they're going to do their fundraising. The fields look wonderful. I drive by there, and the Little League's done wonders since my boys were playing Little League. But it was 10,000 last year. Now it's 20,000. Then we go to another year, and I do think it's important that it be a community thing, and that your calendars, and you said you have money in the bank that you could take out if you needed to pay for the lights, that we start with 10,000 and not keep doing full processes for everyone. It was 10,000 last year. I think 10,000 is appropriate this year. Not saying that Beta is less or more. All these things are important, and we want to support you, but who do we support the most? Do we go on our memories and my memories of my kids playing Little League, or do I look at another group, Caroline's Promise, Habitat for Humanity? I just want to be fair to
I understand.
everybody.
Mr. Black?
Mr. Fletcher, if you were to get the $20,000, I mean, is this the last major large project you have?
Yes. Yeah. We don't have any room for any additional fields right now. There is no anticipation of putting fields in that empty lot that's beside the ballpark. We're actually kind of reserving that for the CYFA Football League. Next year or two, we're going to talk to them about, or they've talked to us about, putting a football field in that open field. As far as baseball, no, the lights are the last thing that we're going to, the last major enhancement that we have to the park.
Thank you.
One last question. Is there one field with 90-foot bases?
Yes, sir. Field 1 is 90-foot bases. That's the one that has been there the longest, has
Yeah.
the scoreboard. We're modernizing the other fields to match what that field has.
And from my children's experience, I got 4 that are playing or have played, that they really need one additional field with lighting to make the schedule work for what they do. So, especially in the fall when daylight savings time.
Can we take
Stop.
10 out of this year and 10 next year?
It's not up to me. I'm just one of 6.
This is really the last, it's the last one they're going to do. So if we do 20 now, he's saying he won't come back next year.
Correct.
And I don't know what we did before this 10,000. But it's like 10 or 15, was it 10 years ago we built the, Jeff, you were here then. We built a clubhouse or something.
Oh,
That was like
wait,
10 years ago.
No, it hadn't been that long.
And we did something before that, which is like 10 or 15 years ago. And otherwise, it hasn't been much since then. He's not going to come back next year. He just said he wasn't coming back next year. I guess they're telling you you can't come back
Yeah,
next year.
that's what I'm hearing. I didn't think I was that bad looking, but
All right, we ready to vote on this? All right, we have a motion and a second to provide $20,000 in funding out of the general fund balance for fiscal year 2019. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay?
Do a roll call vote, Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Ms. Long? Mr. Underwood?
Nay?
Mr. Seeley?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries.
thank you. I hope to see you all on the 13th.
But not next year.
And you won't see me next year, I promise.
On opening day.
Or-
On opening day next year. We'll see you.
Yeah, well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
All right, next we have the presentation of fiscal year 2018 audit. Ms. Wall?
Good evening. I'm Ann Wall. I'm with your auditors, Robinson Farmer Cox Associates. I'm a partner in the Richmond office, and I was here during the field work of the audit and was a part of the report writing process, and I'm here to present the audit this evening. Local governments, all counties, cities, and towns, the towns greater than 3,500 are required to have an annual audit conducted each year by an independent auditor. Local government audits are subject to much regulation. You engage us to perform a financial statement audit and a compliance report for the county for the year ended June 30th, 2018. The audit was subject to auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, the audit specifications that are issued by the Auditor of Public Accounts, the standards for financial audits contained in government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General, the Single Audit Act amendments of 1996, and the provisions of the Uniform Guidance. Those last two really govern your federal program dollars that the county receives. We issued the audit report, which I believe the board has a hard copy in front of you. It's over 200 pages long. And then there is a separate required communication letter that's to those charged with governance, which is the group here in front of me, the Board of Supervisors. That letter, that communication spoke to the fact that the county adopted GASB 75 during the year. GASB 75 is like accounting and financial reporting for post-employment benefits other than pensions. You might recall 3 years ago you adopted GASB 68, which governed the pension standards. This year it was the OPEB standards. That added a lot of volume to the audit report, to the required disclosures associated with the disclosures related to the OPEBs that the county carries. Note 20 was an adoption footnote. There was a restatement of beginning net position. That's footnote 21 on page 120 of the audit, and notes 15 through 18 detail the other post-employment benefits that the county carries, specifically group life insurance and the health insurance credit that are administered through the Virginia retirement system. And then there's a standalone plan for the medical and dental insurance that's offered to retirees at both the county and the school board. And there's an OPEB associated with the Line of Duty Act. We didn't encounter any difficulties or disagreements with management during the course of the audit. We actually received excellent cooperation from all the departments. Everybody was very professional, very helpful. I think everybody likes to see auditors get in and get out. It's a comprehensive audit. We reached out and worked with officials at the county finance department, county administration, the school board, the utilities, the treasurer, social services, sheriff's office, economic development. The list probably goes on. Management has corrected all the misstatements during the course of the audit. We did identify some material misstatements that needed to be recorded, and they have been posted to the county's general ledger. We did obtain management representations, and we were engaged in expressing not to engage an opinion on the statistical information. Now I'm going to go through the audit and the attestation results. I'm pleased that we were able to express an unmodified or a clean opinion on the county's financial statements. That's the first 3 pages of the audit report, but that means the financial statements are materially correct. And then we also issued a clean opinion on the compliance for each major program and on the internal controls over compliance for the year ended June 30th, 2018. The compliance opinion on your federal program dollars, that's in the back of the audit report. We did identify a material weakness that I'm going to talk about on probably two more slides, in internal control over financial reporting and on compliance. As part of the engagement, we were also required to do a VRS attestation. We did find some issues, and those were reported to the Auditor of Public Accounts in accordance with the audit specifications. Moving on to the financial statement findings. As part of the current year audit, we're required to go back and follow up on the material issues that were noted this time last year. And as you all recall, this time last year, there were 3 material weaknesses that were noted relative to the school board's financial statements. And I'm very pleased to report that we were able to identify corrective action on all the findings from last year related to the school fund accounting. There's a new school finance director in place, and her staff worked to alleviate all of the prior year material weaknesses, including the final 2017-003 regarding reconciling with the treasurer's office, because the school board was on a different accounting system, and they've adopted a procedure where they reconcile monthly with the treasurer's office. Current year financial statement findings, we did identify one material weakness this year. A material weakness, typically when we go about the course of our audit, auditors often issue a management letter, and those are what are called internal control, a deficiency, an area of concern, something that might need to be worked on. When you kind of scale it up, then there is something called a significant deficiency, and then the highest tier would be a material weakness. And that's an issue with your internal controls, which your internal controls are your in-house financial policies and procedures. Your process for paying bills, your process for processing payroll, or your process for identifying year-end adjusting entries, which are put into those policies are in place to prevent significant financial statement irregularities. So when there's a material weakness, your auditors have determined that those controls are not effective relative to the material weakness. The county's financial statements required material adjustments after audit fieldwork date to ensure that the statements complied with generally accepted accounting principles. We identified a material misstatement, discussed it with the county finance director, and he agreed, he concurred that that entry needed to be recorded. It was a $1.2 million accounts payable item related to an energy performance contract. Specifically, how that particular item was excluded from the accounts payable really had to do with it was an electronic payment rather than a payment by check. And so I think that's how it slipped through the cracks. Certainly this year was a transition year, working with a new finance director. And there's a lot of complexities associated with the county's financial reporting. But the auditing standards are clear. If we have to propose a material adjustment to the financial statements, then we need to report a material weakness in financial reporting. I've kind of gone through the results of the audit. I've talked about the opinions that we issued, and I just wanted to draw your attention to a little bit of information that's in the audit. There's 209 pages, but I've pulled out the general fund balance over the last 5 years. The county ended the year, June 30th, 2018, with a $25.5 million general fund balance, of which certain amounts of it were restricted. I think $1.8 million was restricted for a debt service reserve, and then about $5.3 million was either committed or assigned for future capital projects or specific expenditures. But there was $18.3 million that was unassigned of that $25.5 million. Your general fund balance has certainly grown over time, but your budget has also grown over the last 5 years as well. It increased 4% over this time last year. And then finally, I wanted to draw your attention to that unassigned general fund balance of $18.3 million is in compliance with the county's fund balance policy that was adopted, I think, last spring in 2018. Your fund balance policy states that your total operating revenue, which is $76.9 million, which includes the general fund revenues, the school fund revenues, and then is reduced for the transfer to the school fund, which is included in the school fund revenues, that $14.2 million. So your operating revenues are $76.9 million times the 15%. So you're certainly in compliance with your minimum unassigned fund balance. And that ensures that the county can fund operations, that you can fund debt service in the event of a catastrophic event or change in economic conditions. In addition to the material weakness that we've just talked about, we did issue a management letter. It just really included kind of 3 unrelated items. One had to do with some improvements in fixed asset accounting. Another one, the EDA is included as part of the audit. Your EDA is really very small. The operations are small. The transactions are few, but their accounting is just very informal. And so talk to them about really formalizing their processes and procedures. 'Cause who knows when they might grow some. And then the written Board of Supervisors minutes. During our review of the minutes, we noted that all of the meeting minutes weren't available for us to review. I was able to review agendas and board packets and kind of satisfy myself that way, but all of the written minutes weren't available when we were here. The last slide really just has to do with future accounting and reporting changes, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but there's just always something on the horizon. Probably the next thing that will be meaningful will be the lease standard, statement number 87, but that's really not effective until FY21, so we have some time to prepare for that. That concludes my comments, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Mr. Seeley?
I guess I'm going to try to understand parts of this since I spent a lot of time looking at it. On page 158, the very bottom of the page, it says deferred inflow of resources are due and payable in the current period and therefore are not reported in the funds. Is that an underpayment in retirement because it's bracketed?
It is, it's not an underpayment, but it really represents part of the county's, this particular schedule that you're looking at down there is trying to reconcile your two different bases of accounting. So your fund accounting, which you're very familiar with, it's the way the county keeps their books. And then there's statements at the front that are on the full accrual basis that pull in the county's fixed assets, long-term liabilities, any debt, and there are pieces of debt that are, or long-term liabilities that are associated with the other post-employment benefits. If I were to draw your attention to, if you back up a couple of pages, at the end of the footnotes, on page, sorry.
I know.
You went to page 120.
Ooh. Yeah, that's like,
It's several pages, but that's the restatement of net position. This year, the county adopted GASB 75, and you can see that the other post-employment liabilities were large. I mean, the school's restatement was $9.5 million reduction in net position, and the county's restatement was $1.5 million. They're not unpaid liabilities, they just were never on your financial statements before.
so tell me what is our liability for that?
Well, truly, your financial position, and I've tried to explain this to some other counties as well, this accounting standard was affected this year, but your financial position is no different this year than it was this time last year. Just this year, you're required to report these other post-employment benefits liability in the financial statements. You pay as you go on these things. You know, the Virginia retirement system establishes how much you pay for group life insurance and for the health insurance credit. The county and the school board do offer a pay-as-you-go plan, which helps the county employees and school board employees pay their health insurance. And so those liabilities are part of that as well.
You use the word liability, and liability means to me we potentially owe at some point. So I'm looking for what's that point, I guess.
Well, I think you're funding it as you go along. I mean, you're paying as you go. You're paying whatever your liability is this year as you go. For financial reporting, the VRS had to hire an actuary to estimate what this liability is, and it had to be reported in here to be in compliance with the accounting standards that requires it.
Can I try that one? Because that's something we just did last year. So would our liability be if everybody retired? That's what we would owe right now?
In theory, yes, sir.
But my point is that as we end up with more and more retirees, that amount, we're paying as we go, but we will owe more as, what I'm saying is that retirees can get ahead of what we're paying as we go.
But part of this liability, that this actuary that's calculating this thing is saying that even the youngest employee is earning this liability. And so they have a piece of that. You're not going to pay for them for 30 years until they retire, but they have a piece of that liability is attributed to each employee when they determine these numbers.
Okay. I just looked at,
But the number was
They're large.
It was never accounted for previously, and the reason it is now, I think one of the accounting standards was one of the localities on the West Coast basically went bankrupt because of this liability.
well, the other thing is I'm looking for, the state's asking for this because I think they're trying to adjust VRS to localities. And what I'm wondering is,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get ahead of the curve because I'm trying to figure out the liability that we have and what would be the acceleration. What is the state looking at to accelerate to make these numbers smaller in the retirement system? Because I hear all the time that the Virginia retirement system, though we went to everybody paying 5%, it really isn't enough to keep up with the actuarial numbers that the counties are responsible for. So what I'm doing is looking at this and going, how much are they going to hit us for and when? Because I think that's what this number is aiming to do.
And it's also tied into how the market performs too, so certainly how your assets that you're paying in, how those perform would lessen the liability as well.
So in all the audits that you've done, by percentage, are we in the same shape everybody else is in?
Everybody had liabilities, yes, sir.
But, I mean, would you consider them big, medium, small?
Well, I mean, the only one that is the pay-as-you-go plan, that's probably one of the few that you actually have any control over, offering that benefit to your employees. The group life insurance, you're required to fund that.
Right.
The health insurance credit for the teachers, you're required to fund that.
Got it.
LOTA, you're required to fund that. So the only one that the board even has an option is the one for retirees.
I'm just for the future when we get shocked when they say that they up our VRS.
But so that's really an accrued liability then, based on the life of the employee to retirement.
Right, and again,
that's just-
we as your auditors certainly don't calculate those numbers. We include those in the audit report. The actuaries, VRS hired actuaries to come up with those numbers, and the county had to hire an actuary to come up with your pay-as-you-go plan liability numbers as well.
Well, no, but what they're looking at, what those numbers are, and how much, right, and how much they will jack up our VRS over time.
Basically, another way they can generally say what your financial position is, because you have this liability, even if it's way out there in the future.
Right. It was a new number. I took the time to look at all these. So if we could go to page 178, because I think in my brain I figured out what this means, but on paper it really looks pretty bizarre.
Okay.
I'm not an accountant, I'm an engineer, okay? Let me draw the line sort of there for you. The brackets always mean negative numbers to me. So with that being said, I went to, under contributions to county school board, $14,996,876 was the original budget. Then it says the final budget was $14,115,090, and the actual was $14,430,522, which gave us a negative $315,462. So what that really means is we went over budget, we're not under budget, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I guess my question is, how did we get there? Since it's not part of the final budget, but it's part of the actual. And that's not the only place.
Well, you are correct that the school fund overexpended their local appropriation. I mean, that's what that variance is. How you got there is, I'm not sure if I can answer that. I mean, there were appropriation,
In my mind, I have an answer, but I want to hear what the auditor's answer is to this, in all honesty.
well,
And can you go back and look at this? Is there anything in your office that will resolve this?
Really not. And so I don't mean to laugh at this, but this was one of the areas that, the reason that we're here in April presenting the audit report, this is one of the things that we worked on, and I say we, I think other people in this room worked on this extensively to try and to determine what the appropriations amounts that were due to the school board and what had this board appropriated to the school board and what was the school board owed. And there were some items that were corrected from prior years where the school board was supposed to have gotten their full lump sum appropriation, and for whatever reason, they didn't get all of that amount. And so in this particular year, adjustments were made to the books. I mean, appropriate adjustments were made to the books to account for that and to provide the school fund the appropriate amount.
Mr. Kelly wants to
Sure.
answer.
This goes back to FY16. And you've got to put on your thinking cap when Dr. Parker stood out there and said that he had money left over. We created, at least I thought we created, what was called the reversion funds. And I'll get the number all mixed up. I knew it for a while when we were working on it a lot, but it was a pot of money. And I knew the money existed. So when this all came up and Marcia said, we never got that money, what happened was the money existed. And remember, I live in the budget world. The cash world is controlled by the treasurer. So keep those two things. We had the money. We did. So I went back when this all came up and I found in the audit what Beth had done previously was only transferred the school's money as they expended it. When we appropriate the school's money, their whole appropriation by law they get. If they don't spend it, we get it back. So with that in mind, unbeknownst to me, they didn't get the reversion funds. They were spending them because the board had authorized it. Remember, it was a whole list of things. Complicate that matter, we made appropriations at different times for different things, and J.D. Martin was paying them out of the operating fund in the wrong year because the appropriation got made in May. We even asked Dr. Parker at the time, and Alan can attest to this, you want this in this year? Because how are you going to spend it with just 2 months? I want it in 17 or whatever. So it got spent over multiple years. They never had the revenue because Beth never transferred. We had it. It wasn't missing. They had saved that original amount from that reversion money. Factor in, we started giving them Anthem money. And factor in, J.D. Martin was there also in charge of finance at the time, but this Anthem money was being spent on the various things. So we've worked our way through all of that, but it had to get adjusted out because they had made these expenditures. I can give you a spreadsheet. They've spent it on exactly what they want, but it was over multiple years and various iterations. But we had to make some adjustment to ultimately wash it back out. And of course, when I got Beth in the room, she goes, "Oh, yeah, I never gave them their full amount. We do now." And we have in the last year, but that year of 16, when the big $800,000 reversion fund got created, didn't get to them. And Fran, I thought we put it in a special fund, made a fund called reversion fund, but Fran didn't do that. So they never really had the cash. We're making appropriations to their reversion fund for them to spend the money. They're spending it out of their regular operating fund. So it was causing them shortages in multiple years. If you look at audits in the past, they were short because they were spending money out of their operating fund. I thought was coming out of the reversion funds. They didn't even have the cash for it because we had kept it. And Beth didn't understand that they needed it until I got everybody in the room in February and said, the audit clearly they had that money, but they hadn't gotten it because, and so there's been a bunch of entries made that ultimately reflect in 18. Should clear up for 19. I think March or 19, we're going to be okay. Right, in reversion money. That's
Okay.
all that's left.
I'm good there. Let's go down to the environmental management group where there's 15,946 that's negative because that was overspent as well. It's on the same page.
That is Hanover, Caroline Soil and Water, and that should be an in and out. So they must have given some raises because we just.
Because it says that the final budget was 293,582 and the actual was 309,528 with a deficit of 15,946. So
Yeah, we pay their payroll, and it's in the general fund, but the revenue comes back from from Hanover and Caroline, Hanover Soil and Water.
But
So
it
that's
wasn't-
that's a wash.
But it's not a wash because we're actually negative in the
on
audit.
expenditures, but what about on revenue for them? There should be a revenue amount.
Well, if that's true, why have I got a negative 15,946 in the
What page are you on?
178?
Because this is just on the expenditure. This is expenditure. So if they gave raises in their salaries after we did the budget, and we didn't do an appropriation to the budget, we need to see the revenue that matches that other side, because we bill them back for that. We
You go
don't
to
pay
one-
them. We don't,
Page 168 has a positive revenue variance that you're speaking about, Mr. Cully. Schedule 1, page 168. It's about the second line up there, the soil conservationists. The final budget was $300,052, and the county received $315,997.
I'm looking back and forth.
yeah, 15.9.
I guess
$1.
my
It's $1
question,
different.
I'm just curious why that didn't catch up in the end of, in the actual expenditures, if it's in the revenue. Because it should have caught up.
We would have had to have appropriated it.
I mean, there wasn't a supplemental appropriation for that
Okay.
amount. Yes.
I get it. Again, I'm just looking at this audit going through, because when you go to page 179, we're then under on almost every category on the next page.
Agreed.
Okay. So I thought I figured this out, but I wasn't sure why some of these didn't catch up. But if it's an appropriation problem, then that's the board's, we didn't do the appropriation.
We didn't know.
Well, I understand. I understand that now. When I'm looking at this, I'm not fluid enough in all these to go back. All I can do is go and look at each category and look at what is. And I was just trying to get to the bottom of, so let me ask this question of Mr. Cully. The final budget number that we have on like 178, is that where we're starting this year's budget from as the final number? Not the actual. I'm just looking at where's our baseline for the budget. Right, exactly, in theory. There's 3 columns: original budget, final budget, and actual. Where do we start from?
We're not starting at actual, that's for
Okay.
sure. Normally, I start from original budget or whatever was appropriated.
I don't
We had
disagree.
We had a lot of adjustments in the
year, because remember, Ms. Stevens came and made all the corrections to kind of get the book straight, so that's a very valid question, is where is the baseline?
Where is the, that's all I don't care, just tell me where it is so we all know.
But if the baseline is original and not actual, then we're already short of money.
Or are we? Or did we do something, did we do something that changed that? I'm just looking for where we are.
Oh, Mr. Finney.
Mr. Sealy, throughout my experience in dealing with budgets, you generally, as Mr. Cully said, start your baseline with your last adopted budget. Also take into consideration that we're requesting from departments and other entities what their needs are for the current year. We take that information in conjunction to what our anticipated revenues are for the upcoming year and use that to create the budget that we bring to you as a proposal.
I was just looking for a simple column. I'm just looking for where we, because if we're starting at the original, the final, or the actual, I'm just looking for where our, because there's a huge difference.
Final, but this final number of 39 doesn't have transfers in it, so we never look at it. I don't have a budget that totals up to that 39,816. Mine totals up to, FY18 was like 47,334, because it's got all the transfers to the other funds in it.
Okay.
And also, throughout the years, you may find you have one-time revenues or one-time expenditures.
Okay.
For example, if a water main breaks, and that's going to cost us $350,000 to fix, and you pull the money out of the fund balance or some other source of revenue, we won't have that same expenditure the next year.
Okay. Again, the report was different, so.
So are we at 14.1 or are we at 14.4? That was the number Mr. Seeley started with.
He's at the school, the county contribution to school.
That was the number you started with, right, Jeff?
I started at 14.
But that was your question.
Right,
Yeah,
correct.
That was where you questioned.
That
So,
was where I began, right.
Mr. Cully, maybe you could enlighten us on that?
All right, wait a minute, that's what I'm looking at.
And I think this is important to me just because we're going to do the budget presentation in a minute.
Have to add the numbers up. The transferred operations for 18 was 13,288,641. But then you've got to add in the bus leases and buses.
Yeah, that was my other question
Yes,
is,
these other
do
things
the
add-
bus leases,
Yes, well, they're transferred for them for operations. We just
I
look
have
at
another
it.
question on another page that actually asks that. Where do any of the other, and I don't remember where I wrote that now, do the leases, even for like the sheriff's office, do those get added into their budget at any point so that,
No.
so we don't, that's
That's
all
in the
separate?
debt, that's in what's called other funds, the debt retirement fund.
So we don't show a total contribution
To the sheriff, no, because you're just handling those, he doesn't pay those lease amounts out of his budget. That was the way it was when I got here.
Okay,
It's all
I'm
paid out of
I'm just
paid
making
out of
sure I understand.
Good.
The schools we do. We give the schools the bus money.
But we should do that for everybody because when somebody says my budget is X and it needs to be X plus whatever, we can say, well, here's the whatever over here and buying you new
You
vehicles.
can still say that, but, okay.
I don't want to say it. I want to see it in a number.
Can we build that into next year's budget? Not 20, but 21, so we have a start, because it hadn't been done that way here since I got here. That was the way I did it in Middlesex.
I understand the way you
leases
did
were
it,
in the
and-
department, like the building trucks and things I did, they did it by department. When I got here, it was all gobbled up into,
There was a famous author who wrote a book, and it was called Why We Can't Wait. I'm actually in that position right now, so if you could just give us a spreadsheet or something afterwards
oh, yeah, I can do that.
that says we
I can do
have
that. I can
X
do
amount
that.
of money.
And I might can put it in, but
You're not promised.
Just give
I
us a
agree, just give
spreadsheet
us
and
the
we'll do the
numbers.
math.
oh, yeah, I know what the numbers are.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got it in the fund. It says sheriff's vehicles. We just have to cobble all the leases together. We can put that, don't you think, Curtis? We can put the sheriff's vehicle leases all the years together and give them total.
Yes, we have the details
Yeah, it's just not in
in
the
the
budget.
CIP budget.
Right, just
We're not changing it, we just want to know
you
what
just
the
want the
total
detail.
number
I
is.
give you the total. I
Yeah.
give you the detail.
All right, we're going to get detail. Any other questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Thomas?
Well, thank you, sir. And thank you, Mr. Seeley, for all of those questions. Ms. Wall, I just had a couple of questions. Now, you said, what's the normal time frame for the audit? Isn't it like 3 months?
It is, it's due to the state by November 30th, and then the Code of Virginia requires it to be presented to the governing body by December 31st.
So we missed that deadline.
Yes, sir.
Is there any penalty for that, or is somebody from Richmond going to drive up here and smack us on the wrist, or what?
They may have done that. As part of the audit, we prepared the comparative cost report forms. They're called the transmittal forms. We had done those based on some preliminary numbers and got those to the APA by November 30th. But they also wanted your final audit report by then. We didn't get that to them until March 1st, which was the drop dead last day, so that your numbers could be included in the comparative cost report this year.
Okay. Now,
There are other localities that didn't get theirs in that are not included in the comparative cost report.
now, I don't really care whose fault it was, but if you could tell me what we need to do to make sure that doesn't happen in the future, I would appreciate it.
I have a lot of thoughts on that, but we were here and we got the field work done in October. So we were, and we left with Curtis, but just a lot of things came up this year that precipitated, but they were really more internal. You know, we left adjusting entries that needed to be posted to the books. We didn't get financial statements until after, we got preliminary ones in November, but just didn't, all the issues were not resolved. So I don't know if getting a better timeline, but again, our field work was conducted in time to get the report in on time. I think there was just a lot of things that came up this year that I would expect would just be for FY18.
And again, it's not a criticism. You have been our auditors. Well,
This is our second year back.
But you've been our auditors for a while before that.
That's right. And,
so-
and last year I was here in December presenting
Yeah.
the audit report.
And again, it's no criticism. I just want to make sure we can work together, all of us, to make sure this
Yes.
doesn't happen. 'Cause
We did work together.
Okay. All right, a couple of specific questions. You gave, and I couldn't find it for my questions, but you gave us an unencumbered balance summary in your presentation.
I gave you the general fund balance, so the
Right.
unassigned fund balance of $18.3 million at the end of the year.
Where was that in our audit, if you recall?
Absolutely.
I couldn't find it. I saw it the first time, but I couldn't find
I'll
it.
tell you,
this
if you
time.
go to Exhibit 3, which is on pages 17 and 18,
I knew it was in the beginning.
and that's really your balance sheet for all your governmental funds, excluding the school funds. And so that first column is your general fund, and so this is really just a snapshot in time, how much cash the county had, what were your liabilities and accounts receivable, taxes receivable. But if you go down there into the fund balance in that first column, you can see $25.5 million.
But that's not the same as the summary you put up on the board.
It's the number right above
No,
that.
the summary,
It's the number right above that. That's the addition of them all.
yeah, but there's no.
18,313,000. That's the unassigned.
I did a calculation, is that what you mean?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So that was based
You
on...
did multiple years, and the multiple years are not in this audit.
They actually are in the audit. There's
That's what I
a
wanted to see.
statistical table. I think it's stat table maybe 4.
Isn't this what you're talking about, Mr. Thomas? It was in the handout. It's in a PowerPoint, and it gives the year over year.
Oh,
I think this is what he's actually looking at. Is the year over year, it was a
Page
PowerPoint
187.
slide.
since mine's electronic, I didn't get that handout.
No, but page 187 in the audit.
Okay, that's all I wanted. I wanted to be able, that looks right.
And that table in the PowerPoint was
That's it.
excerpted from here.
Right.
And I just picked 5 years, but there's 10 years worth of data in this particular table.
That's what I wanted. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Well, that's actually not what I wanted, but that's not the 25
But
million.
the unencumbered balances,
Oh,
what
this
we're
is it.
putting in is getting
Okay.
smaller.
188. Thank you very much. Now, I guess Mr. Cully, Mrs. Wall mentioned something about group life insurance, and all of the county employees have the ability to sign up for group life insurance
It's a benefit through VRS.
through VRS. So only employees that have VRS.
Right. You have to have VRS to have group life.
So our part-time
Part-time people do
employees
not.
never have an opportunity to do that.
No, they can, I don't even know if they can, then that'd be an Allen question. Can they purchase the optional life insurances? Full-time only.
Full-time only? Okay, so there are employees. Now, would you check with the insurance consultant and see if that's something we could actually offer? And my other question is really not for the auditor, but kind of, sort of. I think it's really for Mr. Emerson. But I'd asked Mr. Emerson before if the county government could provide bonuses for any employees in the county. And I think he said yes, and I'm not even going to look over there to see if he's shaking his head. But would the auditor have any issue with that?
I think we want to look at the documentation, it was approved by the board, that kind of thing.
Okay.
There's a process.
See, I knew I shouldn't have looked over there.
There's a process for it in the code. We'd have to look at the code again.
But there is a code that allows the Board of Supervisors to provide bonuses to any county employee or set of employees
I think so.
or class of employees.
We have to look at the statute again, Mr. Thomas. It's been a long time, but there
you
is
would.
some sort of bonus
If you would,
procedure in the code, yeah.
Didn't we do something with that with the employee incentive program years ago? Wouldn't that have fallen under that kind of same thing?
It probably would have, but honestly, I can't recall what we did. And it's going to be it's all statutory, so.
Right, it's very
very specific. Probably do have to have a public hearing.
okay. Ms. Wall, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we are at almost 7:30.
May as well take a break before you do that.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and take our break right now. And those that are here for public comment will probably look at about 13 minutes for a break. And we'll start back about 20 till 8, about 7:40. And with that, we'll be in recess. All right, looking at the schedule, we're going to go ahead and open up public comment and then jump to the county administrator's presentation of the 2019-2020 budget. A couple parameters for public comment. It is open to anyone to speak on any item of their choice except for something that is scheduled for public hearing. Currently, the 2019-2020 budget is scheduled for the 16th, which is our next meeting. So if you would refrain from speaking on any topics. Okay. On that topic and any other advertised public hearing, that would be wonderful. I will have to stop you otherwise. And after public comments, we will jump right back into appointments and the consent agenda, and then after Mr. Cully. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and open up public comment. Anybody that wishes to speak, please come to the podium now. Public comment's now open. Anyone wishing to speak? No one's moved. Okay, I don't see anyone coming forward, so we will close public comment. And Mr. Cully, you are up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we'll go over the FY20 budget highlights and some of the detail from the 20 budget. First off, let me apologize that we are late. As you saw, the audit was late, which the audit being late impacted majorly the preparation of the budget. I will assure you that I've been scolded by my wife. I missed the A-10 basketball tournament in Brooklyn, and she said that's not going to happen next year. So one of two things are going to happen. We can get the budget finished, or I probably won't be here. The other thing we discovered tonight since I've been here, some of these numbers are going to be adjusted just a little bit. I was working and I had a slight error of about 19,000 in the 19 budget, which means the percentages and the changes is off a little bit, but there will be insignificant, but you will see some changes when I make those corrections to the file for 19. General information, the total budget of $102,364,598, which is $5,481,013, or 5.66 more than the previous fiscal year. The general fund budget of $52,733,441, which is $1,726,904, or 3.39% more than the previous fiscal year. And that's where if you got to add that 19 in, it's a little bit different. No proposed tax rate increases. We'd already discussed that at a previous meeting. The total budget is comprised of 52% local revenues, 37.7% state revenues, 5.1% federal revenues, and 4.8% transfers from general fund balance and other miscellaneous revenue sources. Proposes the use of $2,370,442 from the general fund balance to balance the budget. And we've had a history of this over probably at least 4 years or more that I've been here, and I'm proud to say that we haven't actually used any fund balance. As you saw, we've grown the fund balance just about every year, if not every year since I've been here. Some general information. We're planning reassessment to be effective 1/1/21, which you've got to get started on that in the fall of 19. We'll work on it all through 20. And this budget includes $150,000 to begin that work, and then we'll budget some more money next year that'll be paid in the fall of 20 before the 21 time frame for that reassessment. Some things that we eliminated, and the board certainly will have to approve these. We'll have to have a public hearing for Fred Transit, but I know there was a lot of discussion. Fred Transit is requested for FY20 $136,493. That's more than the current budget of $102,671 that we have for 19. I propose eliminating that, and y'all will have to vote to hold a public hearing, and that would take effect for July 1 if you also choose. If not, if that stays in, we'd have to add back in $136,000 to all the numbers that I'm talking about. Rental reimbursement to Germanna for FY19. We've been paying Germanna. We actually messed up. We had an original agreement with them for 3 years. We actually paid them 4. The change in finance director, that kind of got through both of us last year in the 19 budget. So we have paid an extra year on that, but we only agreed, unless the board wants to continue to pay that rental reimbursement, our original agreement with Germanna was for 3 years. To kind of go over the schools funding, the General Assembly adopted a budget for FY20 which provides Carolina Public Schools with an additional $518,167. Their number, although the numbers in Marcia, we've talked about this on the phone, and I told you I was going to do this. My sheet and the sheet you gave me, the math works out to $523,750. So it's not a lot of difference, but okay, very good. 518 is overall. Operations is 523, so we're both right. I like when that works out. And state revenues above FY19, which is $145,318, decline from the governor's proposed budget. You'll see I plagiarized all this from the little sheet you gave me, but I figured you wouldn't mind if I used this information so the general public would have it. The General Assembly passed adjusted language for its compensation increase, which has significant impact on the schools. If the schools are not able to provide Phase 2 of the compensation study, CPS will see a reduction of $770,764 in state revenues, which results in a decrease of $252,000 from the 19 budget. So they would go in the whole $252 from where they are today. Compensation, the Phase 2 implementation is $1,026,229. And I'll go over my rest of mine with that and match that up for you. But the schools also don't believe that the 2 health insurance plans currently being provided to employees are sustainable for future years and are proposing to eliminate the Premier Key Care Expanded Plan and introduce the Key Care 500. The Key Care 250 plan will continue to be offered, will be now the top insurance plan available. CPS also offers a high deductible plan. The projected increase for the employer costs with making these plan adjustments will be $764,538, which is $520,530 reduction to the cost of the employer over what was provided to them. They basically had a 25% increase in health costs. If employees choose to move to the next plan down from their current plan, their costs would increase overall with $72,000 instead of $403,000. However, if employees who are currently on the 250 plan choose to remain on the 250 plan, the employee costs would increase by about $728,646, and that would be the cost to the employees. As I mentioned, they have a 25.9% increase in rates. Elimination of the Key Care Expanded Plan and introduction to Key Care 500 plan amounts to a $764,538 additional school budget amount required. Caroline High School Improvement Specialist Testing Coordinator's 11-month position, House Bill 1729 Landes. This bill requires each school counselor to spend at least 80% of his or her time in direct counseling individual students or groups of students. This bill has been signed by the governor. It goes into effect July 1, 2019. Currently, the CHS Director of Counseling serves as a testing coordinator for SOL, PSAT, SAT, AP, and benchmark testing. That's a request of $73,748. General Assembly adopted revenues. We've talked about that before. Operations budget would be $523,750 new money, although they'll lose a little money somewhere else. Their net increase in local funding requested of the board is $1,572,286. Schools proposed, probably not enough, but I propose increasing this local transfer to the school operating fund to $14,190,641, or $562,000 more dollars than the previous fiscal year. And that's the exact match that they need to have the compensation study finalized and not lose the state money that would be, if we don't match that, as we saw in those short previous slides, we'd go in the whole $250,000 from this year. This equals about 48% of our new general fund revenue for 2020. In 19, it equaled about 29%. Transfers to the school operating fund for bus leases is $275,372, and this is just paying the leases we already have. I'm not proposing to lease any new buses. And then we also provide $499,000 to purchase 5 new school buses, which is an increase of $106,524, or 27%. But from this year moving forward, we will only have to change that number as bus prices increase. We won't have to add, hopefully, that much money. As we did was finalize this last bus. We project $523,750 in additional state funding for school operations based on the House adopted budget. Proposed to include the remaining balance of the one-time Anthem refund FY16 reversion funds, which you've heard so much about, toward health insurance in the amount of $218,719. In 19, we gave them $300, and we thought we were going to have $300 left, but as we went through all of that accounting gyrations over the last several months and balanced everything out, there really wasn't $300,000 left. And part of that had to do with that Fran evidently booked the original dental check in as a reimbursement. Do I have that right? So that didn't get put in as a revenue, so it's not really there to spend. So overall, this is a reduction from what I showed you in the school's request of about $641,523. School capital projects, $50,000 for classroom technology, $50,000 for staff computers, $64,500 for playground expansion, all schools, I think is what that all meant in the CIP, $90,000 for restrooms at the football field at the high school. We've done a lot of work at the high school on the track and the football field. This would be an upgrade to the facilities there. And this is already included. The $107,000 is a special needs bus. That's in that $490, and one of the reasons it was $107,000 more than the buses are normally around $98,000, $99,000. But they preferred to have one of the buses come in this year as a special needs and 4 regular buses. $392,000 for the rest of the bus replacements. That's $753,500 in total expenditures, and where I plan on getting that from is $254,500 is a transfer from the Caroline Detention Center Fund, and $499,000 from the general fund for a total for their CIP for $753,500. Personnel related, 9 new full-time positions requested at a cost of $546,619. That's all in health insurance and FICA, all the benefits. I proposed 5 new positions, 3 firefighter EMT, 1 groundskeeper, 1 customer service agent, 1 in the treasurer's office for a cost of $295,813 all in. I also proposed a total of 5% cost of living / merit adjustment for full and part-time folks, and that for a total cost of $634,223. I don't believe we should do just a cost of living of 5% because we will build in compression into our salary scale that we just solved with our compensation study just a couple years ago, and we haven't since that time had any increase. So that would be basically, if you took the 5%, a 2.5% over the 2-year. If we don't do anything, it'll be 3 years, and we will be falling back in that same thing that the schools live with and everybody else of not being competitive with deputy sheriffs and firefighters and those folks that are very transient among communities. How we would split that up, Alan and I haven't worked this totally out, but either a 2 or 2.5% cost of living, and then the merit would go based on performance review. So some people may only get 2.5% if they're not performing, and some folks may get more than that depending on their performance. So the max cost for that, if everybody in the whole department spent their 5% allocation, would be the $634,223. It could actually be less than that if some employees grade out as an average employee and say get a 1% more and get a 3.5% raise instead of a more maximum raise. But anyway, I do believe we need to do both the cost of living and the merit to avoid compression as we hire new folks in both fire and rescue and deputies, which we hire lots of. It's a very transient, probably more so than teachers because they leave mid-year. We also propose continuing the 15-year rule from the compensation study. And for those of you who remember that, employees that have worked 15 years in their current position and are not on the middle of the scale. And so that's just a few employees, but one of them is actually a long way away from being at the middle of the scale, which drove that number up probably 6, 7, 8,000. And the rest are a lot closer to that, but it's probably 4 or 5 employees for that to continue that 15-year rule that was in place with the compensation study. A total cost of positions, 15-year rule, and cost of the living merit increase equals $949,743. We also have in the budget $25,000 for a part-time litter recycling coordinator. That has been discussed. Joey, Mr. Sheebles talked to you about that. I don't remember what meeting that was now. To manage all of our litter and recycling and our grants management for that program. And then we do need $50,000 for 20 for the additional part-time folks that were going to work in solid waste for the new litter pickup crew, the 3 employees 3 times a week. Is that correct? Children's Services Act, one of our fund is pretty much level. Our required local match of that $2.3 million is not changing, $729,475. My throat got dry this afternoon in the office, so I knew I was going to be in for it tonight. Capital projects includes $3,827,929 for the following capital projects. $521,060 for lease purchase of 14 new sheriff's vehicles. I had worked out with the sheriff's office a number of years ago to try to purchase 9 new vehicles, but after looking at the mileage and what we were at with the vehicles that they have on their list, I was fearful if I only bought 9, I would be putting transmissions and or motors in some cars next year, which just didn't make sense. Plus, I'll probably be back next year needing to buy 20. And so I really do, unfortunately, feel, based on the amount of mileage that these, I mean, we're talking 187,000, heading toward 200,000. We run these cars another year, we're going to have major, more so than normal repair charges, and it becomes not cost effective. We also need $499,862 to replace the sheriff's office records management system. They can get up here and speak to that, but I think the software is outdated and not supported any longer. You've heard that word before. And so that's their whole office runs off of this records management system, and that was submitted to the CIP as well. We need a new Exchange server. We did look to see if we could go to Google Gmail or Microsoft Office 365. Both of those were more expensive because of the amount of mailboxes that we have. So we need to upgrade our Exchange servers, Exchange Server 2010. So you can tell from the software age on that, we are running out both in server and in software. The board already approved this $55,000 to replace the AS400 computer. I know Mr. Thomas was just loved that, but that's in the CIP. We also have $1,500,000 to relocate and rebuild Ladysmith Solid Waste Convenience Site. $70,000 to start the beginning and relocation in a new Corbin Waste Site, which is our smallest site. You know where that is on Route 2. You can hardly turn around to pick up in that. $136,000 emergency generator for administration and fire admin. And the sheriff's office, sorry, I ran out of typing. And $200,000 for to start this new Sparta fire station. We're working with them on that. $210,000 for a new ambulance to replace a 2010 ambulance, which is Unit 26. $305,000 soft bill field lighting at the main rec park. That has been brought up by a couple of board members and by probably the Parks and Rec Committee. And $85,000 for playground equipment at the parks, new and replacement. All funding is sourced from leases or financing except for Sparta Fire Station, softball field lighting, and playground equipment. And the source of the funding of that would be Caroline Detention Center funds. Debt service. Debt service is decreasing $272,436 overall. Schools debt service is going down $349,624, 6.58%. County debt service is increasing $77,188, or 2.1%. Total general fund debt service payments is $8,719,775. And school debt service payments, $4,965,374. County debt service payments, $3,754,401. Caroline Detention Center funds. I propose to transfer $590,000 to CIP from the Detention Center funds. Propose to transfer $254,000 to school CIP. Propose to transfer $108,567 to the Route 639 fund. Total transfer for the FY20 is $953,067. The current fund balance today, less interest, is $327,673. I project the fund balance to be 6/30/19, and trust me, it's conservative, $527,673. Projected fund balance at the end of 20, if we spend all the things that are recommended, it would be $174,606. I put this in because I really wanted to memorialize this because it's gotten confused over the years. Route 639 Smart Scale Project total cost is $26,650,000. That's the final cost from VDOT. It had been up at $28,000, $29,000 at one time. They've scaled that back. The county share of the right-of-way and utilities is $3,825,000. The county share of construction is $2,450,000. Total county share was $6,275,000. The county revenue sharing, we transferred, we had $275,000 sort of left in the original 639, and Mike Fincham's not here to help me with this, but it was left, and we made that transfer to them in 10/29/18, $275,000. They had that money, so it really wasn't in our books, but we released it from one project to another. We had to make a payment. I think it was in February. I put this together kind of fast, so I didn't give you the date, but you all remember we authorized a $2 million payment to VDOT. We now owe on July 1, 19, $1,550,000. They've already invoiced me for that. We owe another payment on June 8, 2021 of $2,450,000. The county payment on July 1 of $1,550,000. And the June payment in the current fund is $500,000 because we had $2,500,000. So how I propose to manage that is we did by audit have a fund balance of increase of FY18 of $941,433. Propose to transfer that to the Route 639 fund. I propose to transfer $108,567 from the Caroline Detention Center fund, and that would add up for July 1 your $1,550,000 that you owe VDOT. Utilities. I project 21 new water and sewer connections, and who knows how that'll. I mean, they are working in Pendleton, and we have another neighborhood that may get under construction, so it's just that's just a guesstimate. We do project $151,750 of loss of connection fee revenue. $400,000 is still needed for the Rappahannock, Rappahannock River withdrawal. Supposed to finance that with utility finance, and we need $400,000 for water supply and well development financed, and we need $500,000 for the South River. What is SPS real quick, Mr. Schiebel? Pump station. I knew it was enforced main upgrades. We do have a $78,955 change in debt service payments. It's going down for utilities. And the general fund transfer to utility debt service, $2,207,752, which is an increase of $13,744, or 0.63%. As has it been for almost the last 4 or 5 years, the utility service users pay for the operations. The general fund is covering debt only. And just part of the debt is more than that, but that is being what that general fund transfer is, not for operations. We do cover all operations basically as an enterprise fund. I'd like to give special thanks for 2020 budget to Mr. Curtis Finney, Director of Finance, Mr. Alan Parton, Deputy County Administrator, the Commissioner of Revenue, and his staff for providing us revenue numbers and working with us to try to firm up our revenues. And for the Planning Department, the preparation of the CIP, Mike Fincham, Director of Planning, and Lisa Zeck, Administrative Assistant Planning Technician. And with that, I am finished. And we'll give you some copies. I will make you some new copies due to the fact that I know that we got a few numbers that are a little bit squirrely, and Curtis and I are working on those even tonight. I assume you're not going to ask any questions or.
Thank you, Mr. Cully. Looks like we got some work to do. All right, with that, we'll move on to appointments. And first up is the Rappahannock Area Alcohol Safety Action Program Board of Directors.
these are the following appointments that are pending. We need a replacement for Mr. Terry Southworth's seat on that. Oh, sorry, I'm late today. I know who that was, I still read it wrong. Her term expired in January, and she does not wish to be reappointed. Commonwealth Attorney John Mahoney has been put forth as a consideration by the board to replace her pending approval by the board. He's here.
You want to be on every board, Mr. Mahoney?
Go ahead, I'll second.
I'll make a motion, we appoint Mr. John Mahoney to be the Rappahannock Area Alcohol Safety Action Program Board member.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to nominate Mr. Mahoney to this board. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Mahoney is now our appointee.
I make a motion, we nominate Chief Garnett as the county career representative to the Rappahannock Emergency Medical Services Council Board of Directors. In his absence, I'm sure he won't say no.
No, Chief won't seem to have it.
Although we could nominate Chief Loftus, who's vehemently jumping up and down in his chair wanting to be on this.
Duck.
All right, we have
Second.
a motion and a second. Ms. Long, second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries.
The FAMPO Citizens Transportation, I think we've got three. Yeah, we've got three, and you all divided up in groups
Right,
of
in
two,
groups.
so.
And it's,
So currently, we have one member, which was the member that Mr. Seeley and I put on, but the other two,
I didn't know
Wood
Mr. James had.
And Mr.
had
and
members.
Mr.
you,
Forehand.
and Mr. Forehand.
Okay. So, who's,
Let us get together and we'll find a replacement for Mr. James.
Mr.
And
Black,
Nancy
if
and
you
I
have
need to
someone in
vote
mind,
for-
that's,
what's that?
I
Do
don't
you
know.
mind if I think I may. So
That's
do you
fine.
mind if I pick someone for the two of us? And I'll, next meeting, I'll get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
we all worked out for next meeting then?
I'll try, yes, I'll
Not
try
Mr.
that.
Thomas and Mr. Underwood? All right, we'll move along from there. Next up, item 3, our consent agenda. Anyone wishing to pull anything from the consent agenda? All right, hearing no issue, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda. I think we added one item, C, to that.
A, B, and C. C being the polar bear plunge.
Correct.
Addendum, correct.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I am going to abstain from C, but I will approve, so my vote will be an abstention on C.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one quick question for the chief. On these new sensors, we put them in, now VDOT's upgrading. Do we have any guarantee how long it's going to be before they ask us to replace them again?
The sensors they're replacing are not in Caroline County. They're the IR sensors that are in other counties, Hanover County, Spotsylvania County, City of Fredericksburg, etc. They're all on an older technology. Caroline's sensors here are all GPS-based. They will not be upgrading those. So she didn't know we had the GPS in that letter that was sent to us. But for our ambulances to work in those other counties, because they all have hospitals, we need to upgrade the emitter on our trucks.
All right, thank you for the explanation.
All right. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Next, we go down to unfinished business. Item number 4, final design and funding for the Emergency Medical Services and Law Enforcement Memorial.
I have a question. And then you, Mr. Sheep.
We'll let her.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Supervisors. I'm here again to talk about our memorial project that we have going on. You guys all have been given a package that I prepared today for you, and I just have a letter that I'd like to read out loud. Each of you have, and just for everybody to be aware of how we're breaking down everything. Okay. After speaking with Mr. Scheibelt of the last couple of days, I have more accurate cost analysis of what this overall project will cost. He has made me aware of the materials needed to create the base foundation required for the installations of this memorial project. On behalf of Sheriff Lippa, Chief Loftus, and the residents of Caroline County, we are requesting supporting funds from the board in the amount of $15,000. These funds will allow us to order the rock for $8,600. There is a 4 to 5 month processing for creating and shipping the rock. Therefore, this needs to be ordered as soon as possible. With the remaining $6,400, we will be able to provide the pavers for the walkway, the stone base, the concrete sand, and the polymeric sand, and the edging and the spikes for the circle. There will be approximately $2,100 left, which we may need for labor cost. I have confirmed with the assistance of Matthew Petrie, who is a Caroline resident who owns a local lawn care company. He is committed to volunteering the use of his staff to assist in the manual labor of laying the stone and the sand and pavers on work days as needed. Hopefully this will help offset some of the labor cost. It is the goal of my group to provide the remaining funds through networking with the community and selling pavers to residents who wish to contribute to this memorial project. We also intend to contact local corporate entities to request financial support for this paramount project for this community. I ask that you stand with Sheriff Lippa, Chief Loftus, and the brave men and women of this community in our Police and Emergency Services Department to help us give them the recognition that they deserve this Patriots Day, September 11th, 2019, by providing this memorial for their outstanding services to the community of Caroline County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lippa, Sheriff, did you have anything to say?
No, she said it all.
Okay.
I got her back.
If you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll try to answer them as much as I possibly can.
Any board members have questions?
Mr. Shebel. The weeping cherry that's out there,
Yes, sir.
where is that in proximity to the garden that's here?
It's right in the
Or
middle.
Japanese maple, I'm sorry.
Right in the middle of it.
That's,
It's actually flagged right now. There's a stake in the middle, and there's pink flags around the outside of kind of where it would sit. Trying to keep it away from the taller pin oaks that are out there so that the flags aren't in there. And so it pushes it out some, so it doesn't impact that particular tree.
can we move it?
We can try it.
I don't know where to move it to yet, but there are folks that put that tree in that are paying attention.
I mean, we can definitely try to move it.
Is there a possibility of the design around it, or is it right where the stone's going?
It's right where the pavers are.
Understood.
It's too close to make it into the center. It's too close out to be able to make it into that, unless you really rework the entire design. But
I mean, this
Mr. Black?
this project has been, Ms. Taylor has come to me with this project. I think, Ms. Taylor, you came to me back in the fall sometime. When you came with the project, I think it was sometime in the early in the fall or summertime that you came up with the idea of this.
August.
Yeah. So we've been going on this for a while. This project has been vetted through county staff as far as where it was the place to go. We did meet with Chief Loftus as well as Sheriff Lippa as the appropriate place for this, and I believe the chief, the sheriff, and members of county staff believe that we could not find a place in Bowling Green that had the space. This was the optimal place to have when we do this, the project. So I don't know at this point, there's been a lot of time and consideration putting into to the best area for the project. So that to me is, I understand you don't want to kill the tree, but at the same time, we did vet this through several different people.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Long?
as we discussed yesterday on the phone, the size of this rock, we all agree, is not going to be any taller than
But
4
they have
feet.
several different sizes. The one that I have the quote for the amount for, I don't think it'll be any taller than 4 to 5 feet. It's not going to be a gigantic item that will
Right. So if
obscure
it's-
any line of sight or cause any kind of memorial like this, you have to take the chance that people are going to misuse it, like children or whatever. It would be with my hope that that would not happen.
Right. We just don't want something that's going to block the view of the building
No, ma'am.
And where people can't see over
No, ma'am.
it, to see other people on the other side for safety reasons, or something that's 6 feet tall that someone can
No,
climb
ma'am.
on and get hurt on.
I don't think
So-
it'll be even close to
Well,
being
you'll
taller
know the
than myself.
dimensions when you order it. You would know the rough dimensions
Correct.
when you order it.
Correct.
Then my other question, Mr. Shebel, is if that little cherry tree's right on the edge of a lot there, can it be bricked around or worked in? I mean, the cherry trees are beautiful if the pavements are going to go that far around instead of moving it or bringing the circle in 2 feet. If that tree was planted for somebody that was important also.
Yeah, it's kind of on the outside edge. It's probably 5 foot into the bricks. And the problem that I'm concerned about is when you have a tree growing inside of the pavers, it's going to end up, the roots will end up pushing up over time and create more of an issue with the ground underneath and create more money to try to repair those in the future.
Okay, all right. Well, let's, there are several memorials out there, not that this is not going to be an impressive and a very important one to all of us, but let's make sure that we're respectful to all the things that are out there that people have done as memorials and try to find a nice place for that tree to go. And then my one other question was, I am all in for supporting this. The price now you're looking at has changed. In this letter, it's going to be a total of, 17?
If you look at the drawing itself, it has the breakdown of the cost. Everything that's in the letter is just basically going off from the money that we're requesting. The rest of it is what we're intending to try to get in funding from the community.
So from my understanding, Ms. Taylor, the request from the county is for $15,000, and then the other $12,000 to $13,000 will be raised by private funding.
Correct.
Okay, so you're asking the Board of Supervisors for $15,000 for this memorial.
Correct.
And this memorial would be dedicated towards county employees that have served in fire and rescue. So they are kind of like in some ways, I guess, our military that is paid for by, these are employees of first responders, yes.
Right.
Yes, first
And
responders,
everyone.
yes.
Oh, it's for
Yes,
everyone.
all first. Okay, yep, all first responders. So yes.
And dispatchers.
I just would I think it's very important that a fair chunk of these funds come from the citizens, because that's going to make them
I agree.
feel the importance of it. And it's going to show the families of people that we are not with us any longer, how much they appreciate their service. So I have no other
If there's a
questions.
possibility that we get any more money back from the fundraising, that it can always go back to the county. Anything that we have above what we do not need can come back to the county.
Thank you. Celia, Mr. Cully, we would hold this in an account for them, right? And it would be invoiced out?
Mr. Collins?
Mr. Cully, would funds be invoiced out as they need it? Because I think. the
Yeah, I don't
city
know,
to have
I don't,
some separate-
it's on county property. Mr. Shebel, how are we planning on constructing this?
That's a good question. Since it's not a 501c3, it's kind of hard for the county to give money towards that. I think with the county, the Public Works Department could act as the purchasing agent through that committee and purchasing these items that are necessary.
And oversee the construction even of the,
Absolutely.
of the volunteer labor to make sure that put in the way it's supposed to on county property. So I think we would handle those purchases.
So how do you want the motion made for this
I have a
15,000?
comment first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Doesn't that cause a problem, Mr. Conley? If the county's doing the purchasing, then we have purchasing guidelines already. So how do we,
Most of those are fairly small purchases. I imagine we'd be able to get it for those prices, other than maybe the rock.
The
but
biggest issue would be the rock, I guess.
that's the issue. I
cost
think
of that,
she's
but-
got somebody for the rock already. So how with our purchasing guidelines, especially state procurement law, can we say,
Well, all of this is going to come under small purchase procedures, so if you go out, she goes out and gets 3 quotes for the rock and take the lowest one.
I think the result it's the end result, so we can look at 3 people that do similar work and get quotes.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Underwood?
my comment is, tonight we've given money to the Beta Club for our youth. We've given money to the Little League, $20,000. And here's a memorial for those who have protected and served in this county and who have fallen. And I think we should fund the whole thing. I think it's important that folks serve us and are committed to serving on behalf of this county, then we should be taking the lead here. I think she's done a great service for the county to start this project. But if we're really committed to this project and to our first responders, to our sheriff's department, our EMS, then we should be funding this whole project. That's my feeling.
All right. Anyone else have a comment, a question? Mr. Shebel? Actually, the collective that's down there, I don't know, if we can work the maple into the design, have a little carve out for it. It's a Japanese maple, a full-grown 50, 60-year-old tree is only like 12 feet tall. I can't imagine it would be like a regular maple that would upheave the pavers, but I don't know. I'm not an arborist to know what the root structure of a Japanese maple would be. I just know the trees aren't very big, so. But how far out, though?
We are looking at trying to move that tree. We can put it across the way where we also had that property. I know that it was the Caroline Women's Club, Garden Club that actually started that. My wife was a part of it. We know that it's pretty much gone down. I understand about the tree. We will try every effort to move it. If not, we can plant another one. It's not like we're trying to get rid of anything here, but again, for what we need to do. And Mr. Underwood, thank you so much, because I agree that these are the first responders that protect each and every one of us every day. And the fact that we are also going to try to do with the pavers, for people that wish to donate to that, we'll give that back to the county. We're not looking to make any money. And so, and for what you're saying, I thank you so much for that. I hope they follow your lead.
I totally agree with the sheriff. Even if the money was provided, I don't see a reason why we would stop any fundraising. I still want to go that direction, and I still intend to talk to companies in the area who can possibly afford more than just residents on their own. but I think that there's enough commerce here in the county that they could potentially make up for that difference.
I also think there's going to be a lot of fire and rescue, past and present, and first responders, everyone, emergency services, that would want to have their name on a brick saying this person supports fire and rescue, this person supports. I mean, I think there's going to be multiple brick choices, the idea that Ms. Taylor had put forward. I don't think you will have a hard time selling the bricks. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of people wanting to do that.
I agree. I know for a fact that my family will buy one, just simply because it's important to us. Because my husband is a police officer at Quantico, and it's in our family and in our friends' families.
Mr. Colley,
Oh, Kevin,
sorry, how do we figure out how to motion this with the financing though?
You just need to decide what you want to do. I would still think that you're going to make an appropriation to Department of Public Works to expend the funds, and they will get the quotes and build the project. We will certainly take the donations that they receive, for the brick sales and those type things in. So that would be,
Mr.
wouldn't you think that would be?
That's up.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we appropriate the funds to Public Works to fund the,
Hey, Mr.
No motion.
on the Emergency Medical Services Law Enforcement Memorial. $25,520.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, with that, we'll call a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This is,
Thank you.
just for clarification, this is
Appreciate it.
not to exceed them.
Yeah. Another smart sheet, Mr. Shebel.
But, I mean, we're getting ready to go into summer grass cutting season, so I don't want to push Mr. Shebel into saying we haven't set a timeline for this, correct? I mean, nobody's expecting this to be done in 2 months.
No. So where the goal would be September 11th. I mean, whether that happens or not, we don't know, but the goal is September 11th.
Okay, I'm just making sure we're all clear, that's all.
All right, on to item number 5. This is an item that I wanted to bring before the board. And speaking with fellow chairs and vice chairs from the state, Caroline County lacks a slogan that anyone knows. We have a slogan that's on a sign or two. If anybody knows what that is,
I can tell it to
commend
you.
them. However, it's not something that's
I drive by it every day.
it's not something that's widely recognized in the county, and we can use it as a marketing, as a source of pride if we choose to do this. And the intent was to have some creative person, perhaps at economic development, set this up, have resident ideas submitted, maybe award a prize, however the board, if we choose to do it or not, however we'd like it structured. But that was the thought. Is there any discussion on that?
How much time is left before school's out? A month?
A month and 20 days.
I mean, we can open up to anybody, but I think you get the most results out of probably the elementary school.
You know, Mr. Forehand, we did something similar to this. Mr. Wilson and Tourism, when we named the whale
Dinosaur, yeah.
We did the same thing, I think it was K-5, and one of the fifth graders came up with Spouticus as the name. So you could do something similar. I don't know if you wanted a professional marketing hook type of slogan, or you wanted something to, involve the kids. Those are two different things.
I think we're open to whatever fits. If it's something, we won't be obligated. We'll select the winner to the contest. But whether we put it on a sign or not, or on our marketing materials, is a different story. But there are a lot of things, a lot of directions we could go that would be of value, I believe. Dr. Calveric?
Thank you. I'm so sorry for interrupting the conversation, but I would love to propose that we work with Gary Wilson and have him put together an opportunity to come and be a guest speaker at our 5 schools and have the children that are interested in participating hear directly from the impact that a slogan of this nature would have on their community. And that would be a kickoff, and then our students would have the initiative and empowerment to work on that in small groups, and maybe we could select the top front runners at each building and they could come and pitch their presentations to you. But again, that is a holistic approach, but it's all about problem-based learning in relation to their communities. So if that's something that's entertaining or of interest to you, I'd be happy to work hip to hip with Mr. Wilson to make that come to life.
Mr. Wilson, can you get Gary up?
Mr. Wilson?
Gary looks like a deer in the headlights.
Or a cat and a canary.
Mr. Wilson, how did you do the first one? I'll go with you to the schools if you want, Gary. It's okay.
I'll be happy to go as well.
I have a really good
More
mother
the
plan.
better, I'm sure.
I think, they were, Ms. Long and I both are curious on how the whale naming.
Contest ran.
Actually, since it was a rather informal process for an informal concept, we were creating a pet name for the whale. We got cooperation from the schools to distribute informational item to the children, and they were able to then respond. Spouticus was the winner. It was a clever one, and we're warm to that notion today. It's great. I do like that the board is saying that whatever the winner isn't necessarily committed to being put in print necessarily. Many communities spend thousands upon thousands of dollars with professionals to try to craft an image and so forth that links your community to the public's mind somehow. There's a large city to our immediate south who's done this several times, and every time it's been lamentable and not memorable. And it's always entertaining to the rest of us in the business, but it just goes to show you can do a lot with professionals and still come up short, and hoping that we get something usable from the general public. Not impossible. It might actually be something brilliant out there, but it's not something I'd hang my hat on.
Agreed.
But it's worth the learning exercise?
Again, we could always come up with another Spouticus.
Well, you could always have a children's contest and then ask publicly adults if they have any good ideas to submit them. Mr. Wilson, didn't we at a meeting, there was something where we termed Caroline as being the jewel of the Golden Crescent? Wasn't that one of your plans where we had the developmental curve? Who came up with that?
Well, I don't quite recall the jewel reference. The Golden Crescent is actually a rather old concept that we managed to revive, and quite successfully, which goes to show that if you just wait long enough, you can reuse some things.
All right, well, very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any more questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Thomas?
while we're here, and the majority of the board will decide whether you want a professional opinion or an opinion from the school, would Mr. Seeley be so kind, I think since he and I are the two that know. Would you please repeat what the actual sign says now for Caroline's slogan?
It's the land of opportunity.
The land of opportunity. I want just to make sure we get that out on
I mean,
YouTube and everything else.
we
but it's
do
been
know
the
what
land
it
of
is.
opportunity. And do you recall, I'm not sure you were here, but when we wanted to put something about Secretariat on our sign, VDOT had rules that said we couldn't do that.
Right.
So,
I wasn't here, I was out there when that discussion took place.
well, I was here, and VDOT basically said, I'm sure Mr. Wilson was here if I was here.
And the name and image of Secretariat is copyrighted and trademarked.
Right. So there are some things, but with those parameters, just my opinion, does the board want a professional name, or do we want to exercise? And it may be good to go along with, when we, commemorate the All-American City folks, to come up with a name, and then that's the same. Up to you. I just wanted to give you the parameters.
Mr. Wilson, do you have an opinion? Do we need it? Is this something we need to do professionally?
Well, actually, that's a very good question. I think if you had something absolutely amazing, Virginia is for lovers, is known throughout the world, of course, and so that wouldn't work. Most don't. Land of Opportunity was old 20 years ago when I first saw it, and not to make light of our county slogan, but on our marketing materials, for example, we didn't want to necessarily get away from that, but what we did is we took away the land of, and we just left opportunity as a part of our economic development approach, because that's what we offer is opportunity in this county, and it's slightly more hip than land of opportunity. Slightly more hip.
And hip is used now?
Yeah. It still is in some places, yes, sir. So.
All right, you just gave me one. Loving starts here.
If that would be acceptable
Loving
to
the
those
sweet
who are
country life.
connected with that name.
Loving starts
Loving the
here.
sweet life.
No, loving starts
I
here.
know, loving and sweet Caroline.
All right, we're obviously not going to come up with one.
You're off to a great start, though. That was inspiring.
I did kind of like that one right
That was
away.
good.
Good. I would make a motion that we would dedicate $1,000 toward this program to facilitate it through the schools in collaboration with almost 8 weeks, 7 weeks.
They got spring break in between
I
then.
didn't hear your question.
I'm sorry. It's a tight time frame for the end of the year, and you all are in the middle of end-of-year testing exams. Would we be better, is this something we could do now, or would it be better to wait until next year?
I would hate for us to move forward with a hasty process that did not yield the results that you all are looking for. I also understand the need for the board to potentially be non-committal to the students' outcomes, and I think that that is fine. The process, the learning experience is where the value is, and while we may go with a professional person's product, our students' ideas may find a place as we roll out that motto in a video or captured in a poster or another image that we want to share throughout the county. So I think that there's a lot of value to marrying both the professional product as well as our student learning and what they may be able to generate.
But this year or next year?
I believe that we should move forward next year so that we are able to put together a presentation that is appealing to students but also is available to citizens.
Thank you, I agree.
I'll withdraw my motion, and we'll try to plan it first, and we'll bring it to the board after July 1. Okay. All right. And with that, we have our calendar and informational items.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it was mentioned the schools are actually on spring break. Appreciate the superintendent and the director of finance being here tonight on their week off, and appreciate Marcia, calling me today as we worked on a number together. The 9th, Mr. Black's already mentioned his community meeting at Rehoboth, and the 11th at Landor Heritage. Little League opening day on the 13th has already been mentioned. We do have the 16th. Keep that in mind. That meeting moved to the 16th, Tuesday night. Spring Fire School is on the 27th. Obviously, Easter is on the 21st. Doesn't affect us here at work. And Spring School finishes up on the 28th. As we move into May, our meeting is the 14th. We may need to look at a special meeting. We meet on the public hearing on the budget on the 16th. We can't adopt the budget or the tax rates for 7 days after that public hearing, but I don't really think it's going to be helpful, and they've left. But to not adopt those till the 14th of May and expect us to be able to get the tax bills out in a timely manner. I mean, they'd be out maybe a week before they're due on the 5th. I mean, so if we can look, you don't have to tonight, but what's your calendar's availability 7 days from the 16th, which would be into that week of the 24th, 25th, the 30th, May 1st, any of those the next few weeks. But if we wait till the 14th, you can see how it's going to jam up them getting anything done. It would, so...
Date specifically?
7 days past the 16th.
So looking at the 23rd.
23rd would be fine. Twenty-third.
Yeah, the 30th is bad for me. So
Yeah, the 23rd is good for everybody. That's 7 days is all, that will be helpful for the folks in the treasurer and the commissioner's office. The commissioner has to do it, and then the treasurer has to work on the file and get it out to the printer and get them printed and mailed and all. So that would be helpful if we could do that. So if y'all would make a motion to schedule a special meeting on the 23rd.
Is that just to adopt the budget?
Whatever you want to do with it. Work on it, adopt it, whatever. But if you don't adopt the budget, it's not critical. We need to adopt the tax rate so that they can get the tax bills out for June 5th. So you can decide what you want to do on the budget on the 23rd. Tax rates, we've advertised no increase, so you can't go up. But we need to.
No, we got to meet on the 16th.
You can you have enough time now to just declare, authorize a special meeting for the 23rd. Would that be all right? That way we get it already out. 23rd at 6, 7, whatever anybody, whatever. 6 is fine with us.
need a motion.
That or you got to recess out of the 16th meeting. But you can make a motion tonight just to schedule that meeting at 6 o'clock. Yeah. You don't have to advertise it tonight. You could, but I would probably put it, what do you do? On the website, papers.
I make a motion, we schedule a special meeting for the 23rd of April at 6 o'clock.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to schedule a meeting for April 23rd at 6 p.m. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like we'll meet 3 times in the month of April.
Yeah, well, that's the way it works. In May, as I mentioned, the 14th is our next regular meeting, which, like I said, is a long time from that 16th. The next day is the EDA Business Appreciation Reception at Meadow Mansion. Landor Emergency Entrance Ribbon Cutting Celebration on the 18th. Do you know what time? Do we know what time for that?
Was that confirmed with Lake Landor? Okay, that wasn't, we haven't confirmed that with Lake Landor yet.
Oh, the 18th you mean, or the time?
The 18th, with the May 18th. So we haven't
Question mark on the 18th. We'll update that on
But
the
it will be 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
If
But
it's
10 a.m.
18th.
to be determined. Memorial Day is the 27th, and then the 28th we do have a meeting scheduled in May. So that's the calendar. I'm glad we got that extra meeting schedule,
I
that's
got,
very helpful.
the calendar shows the 28th for a meeting. We still good for that week? 28th, right after Labor Day?
I'm going on vacation right after that, I think. But, I mean, if that's up to y'all, whether you want to meet.
I thought we had
Do
dropped
we
that.
need that meeting?
I don't think we dropped that one, but you can.
Okay.
You've got time to decide. It's all right with me. We come right back, and we come back in June right after it. You want to make that motion now too, so we'll know not to plan anything for it, public hearing wise.
Any appetite to drop the May 28th, which is the Tuesday right after Memorial Day on the Monday? Drop that meeting from our schedule.
Not out that far, I don't think so. But yeah, if you leave it on there, it could be something rolls into it. If it would push to the meeting in June.
Which is what, June 12th?
Yeah, it's right, yes, June 12th, right after it.
Mr. Chair, I would move, since we're adding additional meetings, that we delete our scheduled meeting for May the 28th. Give everybody a Memorial Day break.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second to remove May 28th from our calendar of meetings. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 28 has been dropped from our meeting schedule. All right, with that, we will move into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that I move that the board convene in closed meeting pursuant to prospective business and legal exemptions under sections 2.2-3711.A.3 and A.8 of the Code of Virginia to discuss two potential economic development projects in Caroline about which no previous public announcement has been made.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor of moving into closed session, ought to say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are now in closed session. All righty. Let's resume our meeting for April.
I make a move that the Caroline County Board of, do I need to make that as a motion? I make a motion we come out of closed session.
Second.
All in favor? We're waiting on you.
Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're out of closed session.
And then you need to do, I move, or do I do? I move that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors certify that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from the open meeting requirement by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or, Mr. Thomas, do you certify?
I so certify.
Mr. Black?
I so certify.
Ms. Long? Mr. Underwood?
So certified.
Mr. Seeley?
I so certify.
And I so certify. Any closing board comments?
Hearing none.
I did have one, but I spoke directly to Mr. Wilson, and I'm going to trust that he'll take care of it.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.